can you please do some Milton, introduce yourself?
Mahara, hello. Shukran, thank you. I am really thrilled and delighted to be joining you in Cafe Havana, in the Havana Cafe. This is the first time, and I'm very privileged and happy to join you. I join you in a spirit of the poems and openness. I would like to thank the organizers, Yasser Alatebi and Hamad Suleiman. I would also like to thank Ali Al-Manjuni for his introduction and translating the questions and answers. My thanks to Saud Al-Zaidi for translating 7 poems. Thanks also to Ala Juma for translating 3 poems. Many thanks to Adnan Al-Said for his introduction and for the revision of the article and all the poems.
Thank you.
Shukran, thank you.
الآن نتيح فرصة للشاعر لوسي بأن تقرأ مقدمتها أو تجربتها عن كتابة قصائد sonnets. So the time is yours, Lucy, to talk about, to introduce your experience about writing your book, Sonnets for Memory.
Thank you, Shukran. Introduction to reading Sonnets for My Mother. The title of my pamphlet, Sonnets for My Mother, says it all, really. The sonnet is a small poem, no more than 14 lines. My subject is small in perspective. It's personal and intimate. Even as I wrote these poems, I wondered how different they'd be if I wrote in free verse. Certainly, I would have said different things, and I would have said the same things differently. So why the sonnet? Quite simply, the poems wanted to be sonnets. They wanted that tussle with rhyme and metre as a way of forcing often chaotic emotions into a jacket. They wanted a tussle with language that enacted my own tussle, and also my mother's enormous tussle as I perceived it and tried to express it. The very personal nature of these poems sometimes worried me. Then I found it helpful to remind myself that everyone has a mother, and millions can. The long sequence. For the purposes of this piece, and given my respect for Brittle Star and Havana Cafe, I'm going to assume that readers know what a sonnet is, as well as something of its long tradition. So much has been written on the subject by those far more knowledgeable and scholarly than I am, of which vast tracts are widely available on the internet. But a discussion of Petrarchan, Shakespearean and Spenserian sonnet is not appropriate here. Instead, I'm going to discuss my experience and the process of writing an extended sonnet sequence, the impulse behind it, my choices of specific form, and the organisation of the work into logical sections within a coherent whole. I will also say something about my feelings and attitude, what I was doing as the work progressed, particularly as a woman trying to convey personal and intimate experience in a form believed for so long to be a male preserve. When my mother suffered a heart attack and was given a few weeks to live, I knew immediately that I wanted to look after her and to keep a record of the experience as a way of not losing her. The sonnet seemed the perfect form for the material that was by definition elegiac. I sensed that I'd need a small container for disparate events within a general theme. I envisaged a series of sonnets that would be sparked off from notes on the hoop. I had no idea how many there would be or which form would predominate. I had experienced bereavements before, each bringing that desperate need to write, to make sense, to create something new. When it came to writing the sonnets, however, there was one crucial difference. Having my mother just a few doors away and seeing her every day necessarily changed my way of life. I had a demanding day job and a husband I didn't want to be or to feel sacrificed. Added to this was the endless, often problematical administration as the family's main power of attorney for our mother. It was an enormous responsibility, exhausting and at times overwhelming. The demands of the sonnet seemed commensurate with the experience. 2 years previously, I had written a tightly crafted three-verse sequence around the death of my sister. This time, it seemed I needed a straitjacket to control my emotions and provide a shape for my thoughts. It felt right that a difficult reality should be conveyed through what was for me a challenging form. Sometimes I could help my mother, other times not. The same was true of the poems, and I ditched several that I couldn't transform from the raw experience or trackle through analogy and metaphor. Images. They come at night, crowd the eye with shocks of memory, as all the senses yield, like ominous birds rising from empty fields, but mindlessly resettled after gunfire. This stanza didn't even touch the reality of the situation at the time I was trying to look after my mother in her flat following her premature discharge from hospital. That reality didn't even make it into my Norwich diary. It was too horrific. Instead, I tried to convey the nightly flashbacks which kept me awake till dawn. I couldn't succeed at any level, and this poem was never written. It was to have been the second poem of the first of 3 sections, 2003 to 4. This section deals with the transitions between hospital flat and nursing home in Norwich, and my mother's eventual move to a little house near us in Hyde, Kent. The shortest section, 8 poems, it still seems to me the least successful. Its tension and anxiety visible in the often plotted, awkward phrasing. Once my mother was reasonably settled and happy in her new home, I felt a physical change in my writing. Of course there was overlap. The last poem in section 1, Rhone Valley, was written when I had my first half-term break from teaching, following my mother's move. I think there's a distancing that gives the language greater fluidity. There's something in the way the winter vines reach out like old arthritic hands, palm upward. The gnarled and twisted, grey and naked wood, like roughly sculpted chalices in lines. Each of the other 2 sections gains an increment of 2 poems on its predecessor. 2005 to 6 opens with Dreaming of Pregnancies, the title referring to the fact that during each of her legs. I still smile ruefully to myself when I read, and why should I fret? I wonder if readers pick up the opposite reality of that apparently nonchalant question riding in the car.